بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. I praise Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. I ask Allah to send countless blessings and salutations on Sayyiduna Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his family, his companions, and all those who follow them in excellence until the day of judgment. We welcome everybody to another session of the Black Imams Roundtable. In tonight's discussion, which should be a doozy, is that what they say, doozy? That's
It
right.
should be a whopper.
How do we identify suitable husbands for the women in our communities? And I want to preface this discussion by saying that this is going to be an open discussion for all of those who can handle frank conversations, whose sensitivities are easily abused or affected. I suggest you exit stage left immediately. But those who have the strength to endure, ahlan wa sahlan, and we're going to go forward and we're going to open up with a quick serenade. Imam Luqman.
Yes.
We'll
Hey,
go
brother, you
ahead.
listen, man. I'm gonna tell you something. I love you for the sake of Allah, man. Serious business, man. I mean, for real. Like, I really, really love you for the sake of Allah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أما بعد. So I'm sure some of you have heard of the temptations where we OGs get some of our moves. Soon we'll be married and raise a family. Oh yeah, with a cozy little house in the country with 2 children, maybe 3. I would stop right there. Heavenly. Oh, every night. Now, this is my spot right here. Every night on my knees I pray. Dear Lord, hear my prayer. Don't ever let another take her love from me, or I will surely die. Ooh, that's enough. That's enough for that.
That's the beauty of being a black man. Give that man a round of
Listen,
applause.
man, hold on that. You know what I mean? Hey, listen, bro. Somebody said because we all know, and sometimes people weigh in on our conversation, and they're from different countries, and I get that. And so when we start talking black this, the first thing, of course, is the Bilal story. We all heard that 1,000 times. Then the second story, brother, there's no difference between black and white, and of course we know that there's no difference in as far as what a person can achieve, but there's different histories, man. There's different histories. There's different cultures. There's different nuance, and since we're talking about marriage, I'm gonna take 5 minutes, Sheikh, okay? And I'm not gonna take a long time, but just to start, just to start the conversation, since we're talking about marriage and suitable husbands, and I'm speaking. There's a article on my Facebook page that says qualities to look for in a Muslim husband. And there's things, if anybody's interested, sisters interested, just to get an idea, a direction, you can go look at that. And that's pretty popular on my blog, and you can find it on my Facebook page. But when I speak about qualities to look for in a Muslim husband, I'm more speaking from the standpoint of a father who's raised daughters who had married them, raised them, and they married them from my home. They didn't go out; they were on their own. No, they stayed chaste, and alhamdulillah, they got married. And this is the kind of stuff that I was looking for when I look for a husband. And then it's changed over the years. Not changed, but I kind of because as we grow, we get older, we see different trends in the community. Um, so when you look for a husband, the best possible quality in any man or any female is taqwa. That's the number one thing you're looking for. But taqwa don't mean he got money. Taqwa don't mean that he's smart. Taqwa don't mean that he's brave, strong. But taqwa is a quality. I had a situation once where the brother wanted to marry my daughter, man. And the brother, man, mashallah, man. I mean, I love this brother, man. I loved him, man. But he wasn't strong. He wasn't strong enough for my daughter. My daughter was just a strong wills, and he wasn't a provider. He never knew about providing. I'm like, dude, just get a job, man. Just get any job. But I loved his character, his demeanor, his deen, but he was untested. He wasn't tested. He hadn't been out in the world. He basically came from his parents' house, and so he didn't, so there's different elements that you have to take into consideration. But the one quality that I always admire in any man or anyone, and I still have a daughter, she's younger, but inshallah, I hope to get her married, to her to be married to someone, is taqwa. Taqwa, he got to have heart. He got to have heart, know how to fight. I mean, if he don't know how to fight and he a punk, he ain't marrying my daughter, man. Not in this world. If we were in someplace else, it'd be different. Taqwa, heart, prayer, and Jum'ah. Those are the kind of things, even sisters who I'm guardian for now, and when they present somebody, Imam, check this person out, First question I'm asking, dude, where you go to Jum'ah last Friday? If it's Saturday, where was you yesterday? If it's Monday, where was you last Friday? If it's Thursday, where were you Friday? If it's Friday, we go Jum'ah today. And when I hear, oh, brother, that automatically, that's a sign for me. But when was the last time you been at Jumu'ah? I ain't my job. Okay, whatever, man. I'm already, because usually if a brother goes to Jumu'ah every Friday, sisters, listen to me, and people know him at the Masjid, it's much more likely that he's an accountable type of dude. That there's people that can talk to him, that he shows his face. No matter what happens, he's showing his face, And if he's close with the Imam or close with other brothers, because brothers, regardless of what people may think about us, Muslim brothers who practice the deen, we don't really condone each other doing haram stuff, especially when it comes to the females. We don't condone that. If brothers knew I was treating them with sister bad, one of these brothers is older, but my father will call me on the phone. My brother, my son will call me. My daughter, my aunts will call me. People will call me. We don't really condone that. So when a brother knows brothers, like these people know him, maybe prayed with him, maybe made Hajj with him, Umrah with him, fasted Ramadan, the i'tikaf in the Masjid with him, traveled with him. That's kind of, because a lot of sisters who get married today, they're not coming, or trying to get married, they're not virgins coming from their parents' home. They maybe have previous experience, married, have kids, all this kind of stuff. Usually if you're coming from your home, you're young, you're 16, 17, 19, 20, 22, your father's there, your father's, which is another point. I'm just leave it at this, because the taqwa, Masjid, men who are willing to meet, talk to your father, your brother, your uncle, your mom, who could look your father in the eye, that's a sign of a decent dude who's sincere. He may not have the qualities you want, but he's sincere. Because every time when my daughters got married, even my son got married, I gave the same talk to my son as I gave to my son-in-laws. Listen, you taking this sister, you're responsible. Don't let me get no call that you abusing her. I said this to my own biological son. Don't let me get a call that you abuse your wife, because I'm coming. I'm coming to see you. And I told that to my, and so he looked me in my eye, and my stepsons looked me in my eye. You know what, Imam? Listen, I'm going to do my best to take care of your daughter and do what's right. do what's right. Because a man is going to talk to your father and look at your father in the eye. Sir, listen, I want to marry your daughter. And it doesn't have to be you live with your father. It could be your father. He doesn't have to be Muslim. But any man that will go to your father, will go to your brothers, will go to other men in your family up front. Yes, my name is so and so. I want to try to marry your daughter. But I live right there. I work over here. I do so and so. But. I mean, he don't have to be no angel in his past, because everybody has a past. But if he's going to do that, he's basically has good intention. Because men, if they intend well towards a woman, they don't care who you bringing, your guardian, your father, they don't care, because their intentions are good. But when their intentions are bad, they don't want to talk to that person. That's it.
Imam, I'm gonna pass it on. So we got some of your list. I'm gonna leave it at 5. I got 4, but in case I had just one more that you may have mentioned, I might have missed. I got a taqwa. I got courage, heart. I got attends jumu'ah, and I got willing to meet a father, brother, or male. Was it one that I missed, or that was close to everything?
Oh, okay,
yeah, that's the heart, courage stuff.
That's the basic.
Okay, Muhammad Rambo.
Got to have heart, man. Come on, man. Come on.
All right, I'm gonna go to Imam Faheem. So we got 4 from Imam Luqman. I asked everyone, so that everyone know before to get a list of 10. So these ones that Imam Luqman mentioned, I just need you to give me 3 more out of the 10 that you wrote down or that you thought about. So his was taqwa, courage, which is the ability to rumble, and jumu'ah, and willing to meet the male members of the person's family. So inshallah, Imam Faheem, if you can add at least 3 more out of the 10, because I'm going to ask all of them. Once we will have 12 from all of us at least, maybe 15, and then we can expand on them for the real conversation, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. How's it sound? Is it good?
Wa alaikum salam. You sound good.
Alhamdulillah. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawmiddin wa ba'd. I'd like to welcome everyone, first of all, for joining us tonight. And I got a couple here to add on. So you said 3, right, Imam? Imam Amin, you said add 3 of them?
Yes, at least 3, maybe 4.
Okay. All right. So the first one that I would like to give is that I'm trying to see, I mean, if a man is trying to marry my daughter or anybody's daughter, the first thing that I would like to, is that he has to be manly. He has to be masculine. That's the first thing. He got to have, he got to be a man. So that's one. The next one I will put is that he should have articulation. He should be able to express himself, say what's on his mind, mean what he says, be able to look me in my eye. I think Imam Luqman said that, and stand behind his word, and, that means a lot when I'm talking to him, and the next one I got is that he should have navigation. And what I mean by navigation is that I want him to be the kind of man that he's going to be able to figure things out. He's going to be able to be a leader. He's going to, take my daughter under his wing, and, he's going to help her get through life. She should be able to call him, and, he has the ability to take away her worries. You know what I mean? She should be able to come to him and be like, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And, baby, Allah got us. Don't worry. I'm going to take care of you. And the other one, since you said 4, I'm just going to add on one more, is that he got to have a Frank White on the train mentality. You ever see King of New York?
Yeah, I just forget the Frank White.
Well, the Frank White when he was on the train.
I hope that don't mean you got to have a package.
No, what it means is that, in a nutshell, it means that when my daughter's with him, he should be able to protect her. You know what I'm saying? So on the train, just for those who don't know, when Frank White was on the train with his lady, they was on the cart, and they was the only one on there. And these two or three guys tried to rob him, so they thought they had an easy Vic. So they tried to run up on him. So Frank flashed the heat, was like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. And then he threw him a wad of money, and then he said, you want some work? Meet me at the Plaza Hotel. So that's the kind of guy I'm looking for my daughter. Like, if my daughter's with you, man, don't nobody better not say nothing to her, especially, in this delicate society we live in as Muslims. If somebody talking about, hijab or why you got that stuff on or ninja or anything, he better be ready to take action, So those are the four things that I thought of. I mean, I have more, but I'm just adding to the list.
We're going to add on, because we may have to do more than one of these. But once we get to the format, then we're going to expound on it, inshallah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it.
All right. Barakallahu fikum. Imam Naeem.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. I put down 11, so I'm just going to go from top to bottom, and you stop me whenever you want me to stop, inshallah. The first one I have is that he belongs to and is an essential part of his Muslim community. In other words, the brother should be part of a community, and I worded it like that because a lot of brothers go to Juma, but they're not necessarily part of the community. They go to Juma every week. They're not an essential part of a community. And what I mean by that is, if that brother were to die, his absence will be missed because he was an integral and an active part of a community. And we talk about this over and over again. This is extremely important because when a brother marries you, sister, you are accepting his leadership. Before last couple of weeks, we had shows or roundtables on checks and balances, right? So when a sister gets married, your husband is an authority over you, and he should have someone in authority over him. If you married to a person and he refuses, he ducks and dodges with being a part of community, that's a sign I'm not saying it's written in stone, but it's a sign that he could be trying to isolate you. And if you know anything about abusive husbands, cults, and pimps, they all have that characteristic in common, is that they try to isolate their victims. So you don't want to be isolated. You want to be part of a community. And that was my first one, but the second one is connected to that, because the second one is that he has a leader. Obviously, if you're part of community has a leader. Umar ibn al-Khattab, he said, "La Islama illa bi jama'atin, wa la jama'ata illa bi imaratin, wa la imarata illa bi ta'atin." He said that there is no Islam without the Jamaat, the community, and that there is no community without leadership, and that there is no leadership without obedience. And so, a lot of these issues that we're talking about, the one common thing that they all have in common is the absence of community and its leadership. I was just watching a documentary about a gang, and I had to shake my head because one of the things that made the gang strong is that the gang had Islamic principles. They knew who their leader was. They were organized, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We Muslims, we have the blueprint, but we don't follow it. And then we wonder why everything crumbles and everything becomes a task, including marriage. So that's my number 2. Number 3, he has to have a worldly vision that is consistent with his otherworldly vision. What do I mean? I was just telling my wife before the program started that several years ago, I asked a leader what was his vision for the community. And that vision, that question offended him because he didn't have an answer. And so he really got offended. And you have to know where you're going. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he took Abdullah ibn Umar by the shoulder and he told him, he said, "Kun fi dunya ka'anaka gharib aw abir as-sabil." Be in this life as if you're a stranger or a traveler making your way, right? If you're traveling somewhere, you know where you're going. You have a destination. A lot of times you ask Muslims, what are your goals? What are your goals? What are you trying to do? We get the general answer that every Muslim should have as their goal, Jannah, right? Okay, we all trying to do that. That's why we took Shahada. What is your goal? And most people don't have an answer for that. And a man leading a family has to be able to answer that question. Or you're going to be changing directions. You're going to, it's just chaos. You have to know where you're going and where you're working to. And obviously this goal should be consistent with our Islam. In other words, the things you're working towards for in this life should be, should help you get to Jannah in the next life. So a vision, a goal, and he should be able to articulate that. And if a brother can't articulate that, that's a sign. It's not a sign that he's a bad person. It's maybe a sign that he's not focused. He doesn't know what he wants to do. Maybe he gets his focus, he sharpens his vision after you're married, and he decides to go a place that you're not trying to go. So that's my number 3. You want me to stop there, man?
Do number 4, and then I'll pick up, because this is a lot of stuff to unpack.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. My number 4 is that he allows you to have a picture of his upbringing. What do I mean by a picture of his upbringing? By getting to know him, you should be able to have a clear picture in your mind how his childhood was. A lot of issues that happen in our marriages, in our families, a lot of dysfunction are the result of trauma, are the result of lack of something in the household. And a lot of times we try to downplay it, but the upbringing, the family, all of that is important. If you look at the Quran, for example, Surah Maryam, when Maryam came back with her baby, Isa, Ibn Maryam, Jesus, the son of Mary, one of the things her people said to her is, Ya ukhta Haruna, ma kana abuki mra'a sawin, wa ma kanat ummiki baghiyan. They said, "O sister of Aaron, your father was not an evil man and your mother wasn't a loose woman," baghiyan, right? In other words, the action that you're showing us is inconsistent with your upbringing. It's not adding up. So because they're accusing her of zina, they're accusing her of fornication and adultery. And so they're like, "Oh, this don't work out. Something's not adding up right." Usually when you have a good upbringing like you don't do this type of thing. So something's not adding up. And as we know, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Kulu mawludin yuladu ala fitra, fa abawahu yuhawidanihi, aw yunasirani, aw yumajisani." That every child is born according to their natural disposition, their fitra. It is their parents that cause them to be a Jew, Christian, or fire worshiper. In other words, the parents, the upbringing, have a divinely impactful role in shaping how the child or the children under their care are going to grow up. They have divine power that Allah has given them. So when you're thinking about marrying someone, you should be able to, because a lot of times when we interview, and this is not something you could put on a marriage application, this is something that you're going to have to know from, conversations or either knowing the family, right? A lot of times we ask questions like, how was he growing up? You had your parents? Yeah. Just real abrupt, or like we do the resume or the job application type answers. What was your previous job? Oh, I was a janitorial engineer. Oh, you was a janitor. You swept. You might, right? You know how we do our resumes. A lot of people do our backgrounds like that. We put big words and make it fancy when we really have real simple, low paying or non-skilled having jobs or jobs that we were embarrassed about. A lot of times we do our background like that, and we don't give a true picture of what our upbringing was when we were younger. And a lot of times we try to say, well, that don't matter. It do matter. And so that's my 4, and I'll stop there, inshallah.
Barakallahu fikum. And now my 3, and I will leave it at 15 because we can go on and on, but I want to try to unpack all of these things tonight. So I'm gonna ask all of us, when I ask the questions, like, try to keep your answers like 2 minutes, precise, and we'll get time to be long-winded later, but I also want to engage the audience as well. So tonight we got to be real strict with the time. So after 2 minutes, I'm gonna come in and we'll keep going, but I want to get a lot done. For me, the first thing that I thought about, and I got my list of 10 too, but I'm gonna put it in with this, was knowledge of the sacred law, al-ilm al-shar'i, right? One of the biggest problems that I find with Muslims is that they get married and nobody know the rules of marriage, divorce, child custody, Islam, period. We're marrying in ignorance. And I believe this is a major problem while marriages end up in divorce. People don't know the rules of marriage. So one of my first things that I would be concerned when I'm looking at a brother that's a potential spouse for a sister or for my own child is, what do you know about the deen, right? From where did you learn? Who taught you, right? Because we're getting mixed messages in our understanding of Islam, and based on how you understand things, that's how you approach the marriage. So one of my first concerns is the knowledge of what we're getting into and how much do you know about it, right? That's number one. And that's knowledge of the sacred law. Do you know the rules of the religion? And then testing and examine that that's real. The second thing is reputation, which relates to what Imam Luqman was talking about, with Imam Faheem was talking about in masculinity, and what you talked about as being a part of a community. Who knows you? And what do people say about you, right? A lot of times, you know, we allow shady people to marry our women without fully getting to know who they are. I'll give you a story. One time, an imam, because this is a part of discussion, but it relates to reputation. You know, you have a guy who doesn't belong to a community. He's a masjid hopper, and a lot of them is the ones that are in this. And he went to another place, I won't name the city. He went to another place to get married and had the imam call me and said, I'm his imam, right? And so the imam called me. I respect the imam. He said, what about so-and-so and so-and-so? I said, who's that? I don't know him. I don't know him. I know nothing about him. He said, such and such and such. And after a lot of explanation, I figured out who he was talking about. I still didn't know him, but just the description, like, oh, this person. I said, he comes to the masjid once in a blue moon, and that's it. I don't know nothing about him. What I know about him is when I see him, he ain't causing no trouble. That's all I know. Nothing else. So I can't speak on his behalf. But that person, in his mind, I come to Jumu'ah or I come to a class or whatever he did. I don't even remember doing that much. But in his mind, I could speak for him. But his reputation was, he was majhul to me. I didn't know who this person was, right? So reputation. And that's why you should be in a Jamaat. That's why you should be in a community. So somebody could talk about you. They know about you, right? That's the second thing. And the last thing, a career a trade, which is a skill set, or a business, right? Those three things, they're all in one. Either that person has a career, some kind of thing he does that's going to earn real earning. He has a trade, so he might not have like a big education to get some engineering or a lawyer or a doctor, but he has some trade. He has a skill set that he can earn money. And if he doesn't have that, he has some entrepreneurial spirit, which he can start a business. I want to know one of those you got to fit in. And the job point, just I got a job is not enough. Why do I say that? Because in the society we live in, that may not work. You can't expect to make $10 an hour, $15 an hour, and that's where you're going to stay, and you're going to have my daughter or the sister that I'm supposed to. Now you got to upgrade yourself just because of the society we live in. If you're making that kind of money, it's like poverty. So we got to, and we're going to unpack this. I'm just giving you my thoughts. So those things, I think, for me, they are among the top things on my list. So now we got 15 things to unpack. And inshallah, I'm going to open it up with
Imam, you muted yourself right after you said I'm going to open it up.
I'm sorry. Of all these things, Imam Luqman, right? What do you think are the most three essential and why in 2 minutes or less? So we mentioned 15, right? Different things, taqwa, courage, jumu'ah, meeting the family, masculinity, articulation, navigation, protective individual, being in a jama'ah, following leadership, worldly vision, a picture of your upbringing, knowledge of the sacred law, reputation, some career or trade or business. Of those things, what do you think are the three most essential that we should focus on and why?
Well, alhamdulillah. Well, you know, of course, there's more than three, but if I had to pick three essential ones, it would be taqwa, reputation, and family. Those things. Taqwa, first of all, brother, in taqwa, you don't know what the taqwa is, but you get a sense of a person's taqwa through how they interact, how they deal with contracts, with their word, how they do a procedure. You know, taqwa teaches you a lot about your adab, your manners, whether or not you pursue knowledge. If you have taqwa, you pursuing knowledge. You don't have taqwa. Taqwa tells you, okay, I need to know more religion. So certain things come in taqwa. So definitely it would have to be some kind of God consciousness, some kind of Islamic cadence. You know, brothers, we can usually pick that up off of different brothers, especially when we've been around for a while. You kind of we kind of know each other. You know, taqwa, reputation, definitely reputation. If nobody knows you, then you ain't even coming in my circle, man. Really, for real. Even when brothers come casually, not for marriage, just to kind of come to the masjid from different places. And you know what I mean, man? You know, first question we ask is, yeah, because brother so-and-so told me to look you. Okay, brother so-and-so, or brother so-and-so. Yeah, brother so. You come in clear, dude, in our circle, especially about a woman, I'm already ready to pop you. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm ready to do something. And their reputation, a family is important. I'm gonna say Muslim family, but how you were raised, what kind of values were you raised with? You know, are you still dealing with your mom, your pops? Are you close to your family, close to your sister? If you got kids, you know, from another situation, close to your kids. The family is important because generally brothers, in my experience, brothers who family kind of have a favorable view of them is for a reason. It's, not that they're perfect, but when your mom, yeah, that's my son, so that's my brother, so, and you dealing with them and you're not ostracized from them, and it don't gotta be a Muslim family, but just the way you were born. And then another thing, last thing about the family thing, what I have found is that a lot of brothers, when they didn't have a man in their life, whether it's a father, uncle, other men, that's usually a problem. And it don't have to be, but usually that's a problem in marriage. If they never had a man, then they don't know about manly stuff. And there is such a thing as manly stuff. So I say those three things: taqwa, reputation, and family.
Barakallahu bikum. I'm narrowing this down and we're going to unpack, but we're going to get Imam Naeem. Of all those 15 things that we mentioned, what are the three most essential to you?
Man, alhamdulillah. The one that I think we all kind of touched on as far as being a part of community, because that's the safety net. And a lot of the problems that we're having in the community comes from people who get through that net, who just kind of, like what they say, like the weasel in the hen house. And the second thing that I think is most important, that I think you mentioned it, that was my number 5, is that he has to know at least as far as he has to know that kind of stuff, because, and I talk about it a lot for the exact same reason you said, the rules of marriage, the rules of divorce, the rights and responsibilities. Most people nowadays don't have a clue how to get married, how to get divorced. Like it's become a cliche in our masjid now, triage. When somebody comes through, it's like we got to do like when you go to the hospital. Okay, we know that we know what you say you want. You want to get married, but we need to get your medical history. In other words, marriage history. Because we know that a lot of people are ignorant now. We want to determine if you say you're not married, but Islamically you may still be married. We need to know that, right? So all these kind of things. So I'll just leave it at 2 for now, inshallah.
No, we need 3, man. We need one more.
What was that? What was the other 3 that everybody mentioned?
Come on, man. We got to get this thing right.
Okay. I'll say a third one. I don't know how you title it, but I also have it further down on my list under another category. But I say that he has to be Muslim. And what, because that a lot of times that'd be the obvious one, because a lot of times sisters looking for non-Muslims, right? Sometimes, yes. Sometimes, and I put under that, you got a lot of times sisters open themselves up to marry people who self-identify as Muslims but are not Muslims. And then I think a step under that, you got people which proliferate, among us now, and you talk about it often on your platform, is you have a lot of people that's not part of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaat. And a lot of people think, oh, that's you about to start talking about Aqidah and tripping about, theology. No, your theology leads to something. And I can just give you a quick example, and then I'm finished. Certain people with a certain belief about Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, they also legalize and normalize things that, feed into a lot of our negative pathologies. I just give you one quick example. One quick example is the normalization of the one men's iddah. So a sister, gets divorced. They don't even do talaq anymore. Every divorce is a khula. And they say that a khula, if a woman that's divorced by khula, then her iddah is 1 quarter, 1 men's. And so that's, because of this deviant ideology, and they're taking the hadith out of context, they've systematized and normalized hoism. And that whole hood rat ratchet, mentality, and it's now in Islam. So you will see a sister, for example, who has been married 5-6 times in 1 year plus, Why? And she thinks all of this is permissible because she married someone who was not part of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and their Aqidah led to a corrupt fiqh, and they just hohenized everything. So that's just one quick example right there. So,
Did you say hoism?
and hohenized.
Imam Faheem, your three most essential things out of those 15 that we picked.
Okay, the three that I think would be most essential is the first one would be taqwa, because embedded in that, is sincerity, some deen and other things, conviction. That's the first one. The next one would be reputation, who you are, what you stand for, what people know about you, what I mean, what you represent. And the third one would be leadership. I think it's essential for a man to have some element of leadership, in his life, because he's going to take on a tremendous responsibility, being in charge of a woman, being in charge of a family, being in charge of children, you know what I mean? So leadership, so, and embedded in that is like being able to navigate, be able to have some wit, be able to, think things through and, figure things out, put stuff on his back and run with it, and make it work when it doesn't seem like it's going to work, and weather the storm. That's one of the things of leadership, and one of the biggest things that we need in marriages is for men to weather the storm. So that's my three, inshallah.
So my main three out of that, taqwa, because seeking knowledge would fall under taqwa when we use a proper definition. So having knowledge of the religion, there is no taqwa without ilm. So you got to have knowledge to practice. So that will fall under for me. The second thing for me, as I put before, your reputation, very important, because we can weed out bad people just by knowing about them, right? And for me, the third thing is financial stability, which was related to the money thing. Because most divorces, a lot of them, are a result of money problems. So I think we should not leave the issue of finance off, because it's a disaster waiting to happen. And I think one of the things that we've allowed in the Muslim community that affects our marriages and our families is that for men not to be responsible. Too many brothers have in their mind, I'm on my deen, so I don't have to worry about the money part. Now I'm on my deen, so I don't need no dunya. When we need deen and dunya. If we're going to build successful communities, that we need to address the issue of finance. And if the man doesn't have the ability to maintain a family, and we don't address that issue, it's going to lead our women to be looking outside of our men for love. So looking for love in all the wrong places, a lot of that based on financial stability. So I think this is an issue that we shouldn't ignore. So those are my three. Now that we talked about taqwa, and I'll go to Imam Naeem first in that, in 2 minutes or less, give me how we should understand, because all of us said something related to knowledge and Islam, and all that relates to taqwa. So all of us agree that a taqwa is probably the most important thing, because all of us mentioned it, right? In some form. I would like each of us within 2 minutes to define what is taqwa to you.
Taqwa, alhamdulillah, one of the base definitions of taqwa is staying away from what Allah has prohibited and doing what Allah has commanded. And it also, all of these things overlap, but having taqwa, staying away from what Allah has prohibited and doing what Allah has commanded, that also, again, goes back to what you mentioned before about, the person, brother, being known. the well-known hadith in Tirmidhi narrated by Abu Huraira said when a person who you're pleased with their deen and their character comes to you for marriage, fazawijuhu, marry them off. And if you don't, there'll be fitna in the earth and corruption widespread. And a lot of people always use this hadith if they try to throw this hadith at you, if they think that you're trying to block them from getting married, but they forget the part in the beginning. Men tordawna dinahu wa kuluku, when you're pleased with his deen and his character, right? In other words, they have to be known. We should know their character and their deen. And having deen and knowing deen is two different things. Got disbelievers who know deen, but they don't have deen. So just because a person knows deen, that don't necessarily mean that they have deen. They need to be practicing it. And so I just lost my train of thought, but mashallah.
Imam Faheem, could you give me your definition?
One quick thing. I just came back to me. I'll finish by saying this. One of the things I've seen in our community is that we backbite for all the wrong reasons. Like if there's some scandal or something going on, we backbite. We talk about people behind their back. But if a person who is known to do sins openly, whatever, still doing it, and that person is about to get married, then now all of a sudden everybody doesn't want to backbite. Like, well, I didn't want to say nothing. So a lot of times sisters be walking into situations that plenty of people knew about, and no one told them about it. And they said, well, I didn't want to backbite. Well, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he informed sisters, and it's well known, about 3 different suitors who came to them for marriage. One of them, he said, he broke, he ain't got no money. Another one, he said about another one that he doesn't put down a stick. In other words, he beats his women, marries such and such. And so, this is one example about having taqwa and someone that doesn't have taqwa. And if or lacks it, if that person's about to get married and people know it, they should, let that sister know. So that's it. That's what I want to say.
Imam Faheem, even if your definition is similar, but just give your points of a taqwa within 2 minutes or less, inshallah.
Can you hear me? It looked like I froze up.
We can hear you, though.
Okay. My definition, well, not my definition of taqwa, but, taqwa comes from a word to build a fortress, or like build a shield around yourself and put a fortress between you and those things that will lead to Allah's displeasure, So, and, being able to identify those things, and once you have a fortress, you have a sense of security. It should be easier when you have taqwa, because you know what's coming at you, because you put a safe haven around yourself. So, and once you are enveloped in, taqwa and keeping your mind on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and, observing his limits and staying away from what he's prohibited and, trying to do as much as you can from what he commanded, then you get into the habit of, being dutiful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then your consciousness changes, and then you start to see things differently. And, you start to step in a way like, okay, how will this, get me closer to Allah? How does this, earn Allah's displeasure? How would the Prophet ﷺ act in a situation? How would the companions do it? And all of the righteous people that came before us, like how would they handle a situation like this? And, it has to be something that you practice often. And, because with taqwa, there's a lot, so many ayats of the fruits of taqwa, wa taqullah wa yu'allimukum Allah. Have taqwa of Allah and Allah will teach you, So that's my definition. And once you, develop that, you're on your way.
So, Imam Luqman, 2 minutes or less. Ta'arif bit-taqwa indakum.
Type, alhamdulillah. Taqwa comes from the word ruqya, right? Allah uses taqwa. Taqwa basically, I think Imam Faheem said it, but it just basically, it means taqwa, it means to hide. Like Allah says in one verse, فَكَيْفَ تَتَّقُونَ إِن كَفَرْتُمْ يَوْمَ يَجْعَلُ الْوِلْدَانَ شِيبًا. Right? How can you hide if you reject faith on the day where a boy will have white hair? Or in another verse, where Allah says, إِلَّا أَن تَتَّقُوا مِنْهُمْ تُقَى, or you hide from them. And the taqwa basically is you're putting yourself in a position where you don't want Allah to be angry with you. You don't want Allah to chastise you. You fear Allah. That's why it says ittaqullah. You have fear of Allah, and usually you can pick up taqwa. You never know what's in anybody's heart. The Prophet said, "Taqwa hahuna, taqwa hahuna is in the heart, is here." But generally, if a brother can talk in the language of the deen, as a man, that's because you could talk the deen job to somebody who knew in his deen, who knew, but you don't know. If you've been in the religion for a while, and most of us have 20 years, 30 years, man, come on, man. You just can't come and talk. We pick it up. We can tell when you're talking crap or you're talking the deen talk. Yes, brother, I'm doing my dicker. I'm doing miss me with all that. So when a dude has taqwa, he basically is operating in deen sense. His approach, he ain't no perfect Muslim. He may be better than others, but I'm just saying there's a deen sense to people, Muslim men who talk to each other about the religion. There's people who talk in the deen. There's people who talk less in the deen. There's people who are hardly in the deen. We try to help them brothers along. It's not about who's perfect, who's not. The deen means something. There's laws, contract. There's all kind of stuff in this religion, and a lot of times people don't know about it. But a person may not know about it, but they're in that spirit. So that person, generally, you come to the conclusion he got some taqwa. And then taqwa is hiding, right? So the person's hiding from Allah, that means they're not hiding from the people. See, if you're hiding from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and your actions, that you're generally not hiding from people, because you're hiding from Allah. So Allah is one you fear, not the people. And generally when the dude is hiding from the people, man, come on, man. It's a sign. You don't know, but it's a sign. Brothers who are straight up, they're straight up. That's just the bottom line, man. So that's my take on it.
Okay, so my three for a taqwa, my definition rather of a taqwa, is similar to all of us, which is the Islamic definition. But when I say someone is a person of taqwa, I look for three things: al-ilm wal-amal wal-hal. Al-ilm wal-amal wal-hal. In other words, that they learn the deen, they implement to the best of their ability what they've learned, and they develop a state which would really be their character and their reputation. So when you see a person of taqwa, you're going to see a combination of all those three things: their knowledge, their practice, and the resultant state from knowledge and practice, right? And that, a lot of times, that third aspect of that person who is a person of taqwa is more stronger than everything they say or do. If a person has a good state, you just see some people, you're around them and you say, that's a good brother. They don't have, what do you do? I don't know, it's just a good brother. You can feel it. It's a good brother. Knowledge and practice will eventually lead to that state, right? And they have a statement, like in Islam, they say that the tongue of the state speaks louder than the actual speech or the tongue that you speak with, right? The state of you sometimes speak louder. And it goes the opposite the way. The person who doesn't have taqwa, sometimes you ain't got to listen to him. You just watch his moves. Like, just observe this dude. Man, he's a joker, right? You can feel it. He ain't said nothing. He ain't did nothing. But his state speaks. And then you just end up saying, I knew this, right? I knew this was coming. So I think we need to be people that also read states of people. A person can be in a bad condition, but his state will tell you that if you help me, I ain't going to remain like this. So when I'm saying a taqwa, al-ilm wal-amal wal-hal, I think that we should concentrate on them. And I'll move to the next question. So now we have taqwa. So we're going to concentrate on taqwa. The second thing we mentioned that was dominant was reputation. Please, in 2 minutes or less, expound on the reputation you're talking about and what you're looking for in a husband, either it was for your daughter or for a sister in the masjid, that you're going to recommend a brother. Give me something about reputation. I'll give it to Imam Faheem.
Reputation is something that, that people don't have to ask about. You know what I mean? People are going to tell you about a certain person when their rep is intact. You know what I mean? Like, you don't even really have to ask. But like, oh, that brother, oh yeah, man, that's my man, such and such, blah, 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 he's a good brother. You know what I mean? You don't really have to ask when your rep is intact, And, reputation is like someone, you honor your word, you stand behind it. You mean what you say what you mean, you follow through, you're honest, you got integrity, you got dignity, you got honor, you got valor, you got courage. You're a stand-up dude, you know what I mean? That people can, they feel trusted around you. They can rely on you. They can talk to you. They don't feel judgmental. All that stuff is important. People know they can't come to you with nonsense, with backbiting. It stops at your ears. All types of stuff. And your reputation is who you are. You know what I mean? And of course, there's you have another side of yourself, but the part that you work to let people know who you are. You know what I mean? And it when it's really real, then people, when they ask about it, it's evident. So reputation is key.
Tayyip, Imam Luqman, reputation. Could you expound on your definition of reputation? When you say reputation, what are you looking for?
Okay, alhamdulillah. It's a wide topic. So 2 minutes. Reputation. The way I look at reputation, it kind of depends on the brother, but basically, it's sahabaness. It's sahabaness. It's how much of a sahaba. Not so much the propheticness, because the prophet, no one can be just like the prophet. He's a prophet. And but Sahaba, we try to be like the prophet. And unfortunately, most people only know just one aspect of the prophet. They don't know other parts of the prophet. But Sahabaness, the manliness, whether this brother has contract, whether he followed code. Code is important to me, but reputation. You don't follow code, that means your blood is damn near halal for me, man. Seriously. I'm not. Take that back. No, I don't. But if you don't have no code about you, if you a man, Muslim or not, you ain't got no code, man. That there's no rules, there's no basic by which we could operate. There's no honesty, there's no trust, there's no loyalty, there's no word, there's nothing. Just that you just gonna do whatever you want, that means I could do whatever I want with you. Whatever. I don't even recognize you as a man if you ain't got no code. So that's reputation. Because reputation, sometimes a brother, I know brothers who may be known for certain ways, even certain ways in the street, but they good husbands, but they good men. They're good husbands, sometimes. So reputation, some people get jacked up. Oh, he's not so, because in my view, most of the people, when they talk about the pious looking dude, man, they don't know what they're talking about. We live in that kind of age now. Everything is image. He look pious. He sound pious. Oh, his beard, mashallah. Oh, look how he's talking, man. There ain't nothing. That guy, yeah, man. That's just So reputation is it's the honor. It's the code. It's the code. You gotta have a man code. Like when you walk into a store, when I go to AutoZone to buy a product, there's a code. Okay, I'm buying this product. If I don't like it and it don't work, if I bring it back, can I get my money back? Oh, yes, sir. You can get your money back if you bring your receipt coming back. Oh, here's it back. That's code. That's code. That's code. we working on something. So when the brother doesn't have anything to work with as far as honor, loyalty, respect, manliness, man, look, that's a reputation to me, man. If he a wishy-washy dude, I don't care who you are, Muslim, non-Muslim, it don't matter, man. If you a wishy-washy dude, you say one thing, I come back and you tell me something different from what you said before, and then try to make me think that you didn't say. Oh man, dude, I just know. That's reputation. You're just honest. You're just loyal. You're a liar. You're a lying man. Lie about nothing. Lie like, just lie. Lying to me, if we lying, is war. We can lie in wartime. So if you lying, that means just what, you at war with me? So I'm old school. So that's what I mean by reputation. People should know you. If you're not known for doing underhanded, devious, cowardly, treason, two-faced. That's reputation, man.
Okay, Imam Naeem, expound on the reputation that you mentioned about reputation. This aspect that we kind of agree on. Go ahead.
If you all remember what Imam Faheem said and Imam Luqman said, I really don't have too much to add to that. I agree with everything they said 100%. The only thing that I would add to that is the fact that being that like we're on the same page like that, it's hard to find other imams who use that as a standard and adhere to that code. And I just gave a sort of kind of example of something that happened recently. A brother that's, part of our community, he moved and he wanted to marry someone else that's in another place. And there's a few different communities involved. And it was like,
hold on one second. Hey, Imam
Faheem
Luqman, can you put your speaker on mute?
He got the Temptations playing in the back.
Great, Imam Naeem.
Yeah. And so there was some problems with the brother getting married. And so instead of inserting yet another imam and community in the situation, I picked up the phone and called Imam Faheem because he was closer to the situation. And a lot of times when it comes down to a brother or a sister's reputation or something like that, or knowing the person and all that kind of stuff, we don't want to reach out. Back, we all come from the time period when you had to reach out. A lot of times nowadays, because of internet and various other reasons, imams don't reach out. So when someone's reputation, when you're trying to figure out who someone is or what their reputation is, equally important as that is having imams who adhere to that code and stop facilitating stuff for people that they don't know. So I just want to add that to that.
For me, reputation is extremely important, and it relates to a lot of people. They think that Imam Amin, he's just opposed to certain ideologies. That's all he talk about, right? But a lot of the reason why people can have shady reputations and float through the Muslim communities is because of ideologies that allow us to separate. That brings to the problem which you have, Imam Naeem, when you're talking about a person can do this or do that. So you never get to know a person's reputation because he has no code, no principles by which he stands for, no doctrine by which he stands upon. And therefore, he could just say, I follow Quran and Sunnah, some vague concept, and it's all over the place, right? I'll give you a live case that I'm dealing with right now. And sometimes I wish I was security and not imam, because I would break some of these dudes up, straight up. I wish I could just put my imam hat down and put me on security. I would wreck some of these dudes. Seriously. Like, that would be number one. I know somebody might not like that. That's not the Sufi talk. That's what some of us need. A nice, good old butt whooping, right? But I'll give you an example. I watched a fellow. He comes to the masjid during the pandemic, right? Or before this, because it's happened before. He masjid hopping, right? So he comes, Assalamu alaikum, blah, 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 blah. You know, Sheikh, Alhamdulillah, ya Imam, good khutbah, I love the class. Game, no reputation. He want to marry a woman, but he go to the other masjid. But he been coming for like almost a month to the masjid because he got a marriage over there with that one that no one know about. And he got this one on the down low he want to bring to our masjid, but he know he can't come to our masjid unless he's pretending to be something that he's really not. And here comes 3 years later, the person would come and say, you know, he was a joker. And I'm saying to myself, that's the point you're talking about. So I think reputation would be connected to the thing we're going to talk about next, is he's a stand-up dude, right? And we got to have in our communities men that are stand-up men, right? You can't be a joker. It's not going to happen, right? And a lot of times we've turned our community into a bunch of sissies, men who be like women. And as soon as you deal with them as men know how to deal with men, oh, astaghfirullah, oh, right? No, we got that. This is one thing in Islam that I think has been taken out recently is the concept of manliness. And manliness is part of that, you know, reputation of a man. Don't break his word for nobody. I don't care who you are, right? This is my principles and this is what I stand upon. That type of manliness we're missing. So I think reputation for me is related directly to your manliness. I'm talking about a man. For a woman, there's another thing. That reputation is for your womanness, right? Because we got women who are outside of the realm of women. And then when you treat them like men, they start claiming women again. So this gender mix-up hurts reputations. And seriously, you know, so I think for me, reputation is important to define manliness or manhood and womanliness, womanhood. And that relates directly to our reputations, in my unhumble opinion. Last one, so that's two, because we picked the three parties. The last one, Imam Luqman said family, Imam Naeem said community, Imam Faheem said leadership, right? All of those are connected. Basically, that's how you know someone's reputation, through their family or through their community or their ability to lead, all of that. So I'll go to Imam Luqman first. Could you expound on the importance of community, jama'ah, family, and leadership? All of those qualities that were mentioned, which we could put in really one boat: community, basically, and family and leadership.
Well, alhamdulillah, brother. I mean, let me mention though, I've written quite a few articles on these topics right there. So feel free to visit my blog, imamluqman.wordpress.com. But it's all connected. Everything is all connected, Imam. I mean, I think what you said, and we've talked about this, and I've written about this, and you said, man, you talked about it a lot, that we just live in a different state. We just live in a different stage now. We got to recognize what has happened in this, specifically the Black American Muslim community. We have to recognize what has happened to us. We had Salafism that made us into little stepchilds of the whole Muslim world. You know, not to knock this, you know, not to get all into that, but that did a lot to people. That made every single Muslim man like a baby, a child. Every man is like not a man anymore. I need to call somebody overseas to ask what kind of toilet paper. Like we don't realize how insane that was. We got that. Then you had the feminism onslaught that came in under the guise that women are being abused, and women were being abused in the Muslim community, and we addressed it. I mean, I was a Benny man for a long time. We addressed abuse. We addressed it directly. We whoop niggas behinds over abuse. Seriously. And we try to deal with it, and, you know, maybe not psychologically and everything like that, but we did address the issue. Many imams did. But you had feminism come in. Okay, I got to help you. And that really did a lot of damage. It did a lot of damage to the men who call themselves... Miriam, come on, get out of here. I see you making noise. It caused damage to the men who felt that in order to save face, even now, in social media, you have men. But because you don't want to get the ire of a woman, the worst thing for a man today is for a woman to say, "You're against women. You're abusive. You're controlling." And we fell for all that. These are words. These are words. We allow ourselves as Muslim men to be controlled by words that people make up. Words and concepts. He's controlling. So we don't define ourselves as Muslim, as men, by the standard of the one who created man. That's how we should define ourselves. By what Allah says a man is, what the Prophet says what a man is, his rights, his responsibilities, his duty. All that's connected to family, all that's connected to leadership. Any Muslim, wait a minute, son, I'm talking. Okay, I'll talk to her. Any Muslim man knows at the very minimum he has to be a leader. He has to lead his family in salat, no matter what. He has to be able to be called on to lead anything of the Muslim ummah. That's just manhood. He has to be, you gotta pay bills. You're a man, I should teach my son that, man. Know how to take care of yourself. And then you can take care of somebody else. That's just regular man stuff. Family, silatul rahim, all this stuff is sunnah. Maintaining relationship with your relatives, with your father, with your mother, with your kids, with your stepkids, with your sisters. Man, all that stuff is part of manhood. I don't care what nobody say. It's all part of that. But we've let these people whittle our understanding of what a man is down to like a little pencil, a little pretzel. That's on them. So my thing is that for us imams and different people in the community, we have to teach a lot of brothers how to, that's what I do. I take a brother, I'll teach him how to be a man. I'm not no great man or nothing like that. I'm just been around a little. So you teach, because if you do not understand the definition of a man, I'm talking man or female, because a lot of women, our women really been duped. Shaitan is taking his toll on our community. We got to recognize that. A lot of women, they don't know what a man is. They say they want this, but you don't want that. I want a man. I want an imam. You don't really want no imam. You don't want nobody telling you what you do. I want an imam, but I'm not. Idris, come on, talking. Stop. Okay, go ahead. Let her hide. You got to find her. Sisters say, I don't want no man telling me what to do. I mean, like, okay, get what you get. I don't knock nobody. You marry whoever you want, be who you want. Hey, man, mashallah, alhamdulillah, I don't get nobody's business, nobody's bedroom. I don't really care. If it ain't my joint, hey, alhamdulillah. But people have to be clear what they want in a man, what they want in a woman. You want to know a man's history? Okay, what's your history? You want to know how many times you've been married? How many people you slept with? Who we talking to? Who in your inbox right now, sis? This is the reality of the world we live. This is Islam. This is Islam. So manhood is connected to leadership, it's connected to family, it's connected to contract, it's connected to trust, it's connected to all that. It's connected to jihad. People say jihad. I tell you, I'm an intellectual jihadist. I'm not encouraging nobody to do no fighting and all that. But even you have to have some kind of jihad spirit in you to ward against evil. Al-amru bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. I mean, you perfect, but you got to have some kind of idea. This is right. This is wrong. I'm standing on the side of the right. But you ain't doing all right. Yeah, I ain't doing everything right, but I'm trying to stand on the side of the right. So we've taken the sail out of manhood and we've taken the W out of womanhood. And we have to deal with that. So again, it takes you back to the scripture. It takes back to the scripture. Back to the scripture. Back to, and this as a, I'm gonna say this. And I'm gonna get off you, man, because I know I've been, we were just, but for women seeking marriage, like we've been talking about qualities like that, but really, if you're a woman, Muslim, and you want all these qualities, man, you better come with something. You better come with more than just some putang. Seriously, because we can get that anywhere. You know what I'm saying? That's the truth. That's just the truth. Even during the time of the Prophet, you know, I was reading something today because I'm writing a biography of the Prophet. So you know, I'm just trying. You know, the practice of atasarra, which is the practice. It's allowable in Islam. They used to practice where a man would have right hand possessions. And he would take one of those right hand possessions and be like his girlfriend. And she'd be a different status than the rest. He'd be having sex with her in the relations. And if she had a baby, then that frees her altogether. But they used to practice that during the time of the Prophet. And people think it was a way of degrading women. It really wasn't. The idea was that no woman, during the time of the Prophet, they just didn't routinely leave women out by themselves if they were righteous women. They just didn't do it. It just wasn't, well, she's a righteous woman. Okay, either somebody take care of them if they can, somebody marry them. Sometimes it wasn't even sexual. It's like, okay, listen, you're part of my household just so I can look out for you. That's how they practice it, but now we have a different reality. So while we're looking at what's the best, husbands and stuff, we have to really recognize the reality that we live in. Seriously. You pry the deen from there.
All right, Imam, we'll move on to...
Sorry.
Imam, name is you, right? Yeah. We did get Imam Faheem.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
Faheem. So we got Imam Naeem already. Imam Naeem, did you talk about family and community? Or it was Imam Faheem? Imam Luqman was first.
I was first.
Yeah, neither. I don't think either one of us said anything.
See, Khalil min al-kalam, ya Sayyidi. You make me forget because you go too long. Where Imam Faheem?
Yeah, so you said family, community, and leadership?
Mariam.
Yeah, give me your point. Imam Luqman, the mute button.
Yeah, all of those things are interwoven, and they're important because, as a man, as a Muslim man, all of those things put on us tremendous responsibilities. And, one of the hardest things that people have nowadays is transparency. Transparency, because when you got to be a leader, when you got to be a part of a community, and when you got to, raise a family, people watching your every move, you know what I mean? Like us as imams, people can, watch our lives from outside and make comments and what we should be doing and what we ain't doing, but we got to be there every day, and we got to fall on our face, and we got to make mistakes, and we got to say things that are not popular, and we got to deal with so much stuff, but there's a level of transparency that we have to uphold. And when you're a leader, at some point you gotta, be in charge of your family. You're gonna have to be in charge of a community on some level. You got to take some responsibility and do something outside of your comfort zone. So all of these things go together, and so they're very vital, and every Muslim man should have, family, community, and leadership on some level, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to, give us tawfiq and being men again. I mean,
Imam Naeem.
I don't have anything to add other than double down or reiterate what I said before. This can't happen unless it becomes a groundswell of imams and communities that basically adhere to the same thing. Because and I've had it before, and in Pittsburgh, our Muslim population, man, somebody trying to send viruses to my computer. Y'all hear that? SubhanAllah. My virus block is catching it. Anyway. So Pittsburgh is not like densely populated like Philly or Camden or Atlantic City as far as Muslims. But even in Pittsburgh, when Imam Naeem tries to enforce or stick to these principles that we're laying down here right now, they just up and go to another masjid. And so, and what usually happens, not all the time, is that, okay, Imam Naeem wouldn't marry them, or he's making us jump through hoops, or he wants you, you know, he doesn't know you, so he's asking questions, he wants references, or he's making you get an STD test, or whatever they're going to complain about. They go to the other community marries them, and many times when whatever they were hiding from comes out and destroys the marriage, or someone gets oppressed, is usually I'm the one hearing about it. My new policy, or my addendum to our policy, is that if and when that happens, I ain't trying to hear you. Go back to whoever married you and you complain to them. So I don't really have anything to add. That's just my thing, you know, because, you know, they you know, we talking about brothers who like the community hop. They got imams facilitating them. They got helpers. A lot of imams, either maybe they're overwhelmed, or maybe sometimes it's not even imams. Maybe it's a masjid that's run by a board, and the imam is just a glorified janitor, and they have maybe a marriage committee or something like that, and they facilitate. All these things, you know, facilitate the masjid hoppers who's hopping intentionally, so that, you know, sisters won't get their rights, or things that are known about them won't come out to the open, etc. And so they're being helped. And so, you know, us little handful of imams can talk about it, but unless other imams get on board, they're just going to go someplace else, or they don't even have to physically go someplace else. They can just log on or inbox another imam and he'll do it, you know.
For me, I think one of the things that we are suffering, especially in the African American community, is lack of family, lack of community, lack of leadership. And I think that is important overall on many issues. And the marriage issue is just a part of those issues that relate to that. I was talking this morning about this issue, and we've got accustomed, especially as sometimes as Muslims, to cut off our family. And that comes from a doctrine aspect that was given to us. You know, these are kuffar and blah, 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 blah. And they cut off their family. So if you cut off your family, which is not Islamic, you know, but that means you really don't got no attachment to too much else. I mean, these are the people who came from the same womb as you, the same bloodline as you, and you have no connection to them. That's I mean, besides from Islam, that doesn't fit, but that's deep. And that's a sign about your reputation, that you lost connection with your family, right? When Islam comes to join the tides of kinship and you are cutting them off, which is a min al-kaba'ir, among the major sins. But that's one issue. So if you're used to not having family, so you've become not accountable. Then you add to that no leadership. If you don't follow nobody except your desires, I do what I want, right? Then you'll never build a community, right? And the issue you raised, Naeem, I get a lot of flack myself in our community by people who don't want to do those things. People who don't want to follow leadership, don't want to be responsible to community. Nobody tells me what to do. I have zero tolerance for them, zero tolerance. And what happens is this: you'll find those type of people are always the ones who go find someone else and end up with a crappy marriage, right? End up taking advice from someone who don't help. And I've seen people, they'll come back, marriage collapse, so-and-so, and it ain't always the imams. It's these brotherly hookups where, me and my homeboy get together and no one's responsible because we don't want to go to the masjid and we do it. And now when I've met women, and this relates to community and leadership, they don't even know who was there when they got married. They'll come say, I say, what happened? I don't know. How would you mean you don't know? You got married. I don't know. He said such and such, and he said such and such, and that's what we do. And I'm saying to myself, right? Let me pause real quick. For those in the comments, I would advise you, don't pay attention to most of that stuff that's happening in the comments. I would hope that you came to the Imam Roundtable to hear some advice from the Imams. A lot of the people in the comments, they're not committed to a community. They don't follow leadership. They're just entertaining themselves. So I would ignore them and not fall into them distracting from the conversation with stuff that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. That's my advice to you. But I think that's an important. So what I would suggest from us, and this is the next thing I'm going into, is that as imams, what do you think about establishing a group of imams that both the men and women can have access to in an advisory capacity before they get married? So say us four, for instance, and maybe others. We provided a platform where we met with men or women who were potentially trying to get married, and we helped them through the marriage process and identifying those things. What's your thoughts about that? I'll go to Imam Luqman, then Imam Naeem, then Imam Faheem. Your mic is not on, Imam.
Okay. All right. I hope you all mind with my kids. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I mean, Imam, I think that's a good idea. I think we're heading towards that. I think that us meeting, and you and I have been talking, and I need to offline, but I think that's basically what we're heading towards. We're four imams, been talking about stuff, and it all leads to some kind of governance, some kind of order, and I think we have order in our own communities, but I think that the more we come together and talk about these issues, and I just want to say one thing about the comments. I haven't seen all the comments, but I know a lot of people sit in the background and they talk trash, and a lot of times they have no idea what they're talking about as far as Islamic is concerned, and I think it was good that you said just let them go ahead and go. Some people just get on here just to talk. They ain't gonna do nothing. They ain't gonna come into the masjid and say this stuff that guys said. For real. But I wanted just one thing about this halal sex thing, so we can just kind of, because this is an important point of fiqh. So people say, okay, well, sometimes they just get married to have sex, and guess what? Sometimes they get married to have sex, and guess what? Ain't nothing wrong with getting to marry because you want your sex to be permissible. The only condition to that is that when you get married in Islam, you have to have an intention. If you're a Sunni Muslim, Ahl Sunnah, you have to have the intention that your marriage is forever. Yeah, people supposed to get horny, okay, because they don't fornicate. And when you don't fornicate, if you're used to having sex, if you're 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, you had sex before you were Muslim, you were having sex in your last marriage. Yeah, the idea is that, yeah, you're not having sex. So you feel you want to have sex. So as a Muslim, you need to be married to have sex. So you're encouraged to get married. That's the whole idea. So you can't demonize things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made permissible. And that's number one. Number two, in Islam, divorce is the most hated thing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, in Islam, the length of time you've been married has nothing to do with the quality of you as an individual. Nothing. It's you don't get extra reward for being that. You don't. Allah says, okay, those who are married the longest, mashallah. It don't mean there's not going to be abuse in that relationship. What matters is what you do, what you practice on a day-to-day basis, whether you're married, whether you're divorced, whether you're married one time, whether you're married 10 times, whether you're married 20 times. The grandson of many companions were married 15, 20 times. Had 10, 12, 20 concubines. That was normal. The idea is that Allah says, whoever wants other than marriage or right-hand possessions. Somebody mentioned about right-hand possessions. Right-hand possessions are legal if the circumstances are right. So don't tell me ain't no right-hand possessions in Kitab Allah. Don't tell me there's no slavery. Okay? We're not going to change the religion of Rasulullah to make nobody happy over here. Okay? This is Islam. We don't have slavery in America. You do have slavery. You got slavery all day long. You got slavery in the prison system. You got all kind of pseudo-slavery going on in the United States right now. You got people whose sisters on welfare. You're damn near a slave. They come and examine you and just come and take your kids when they want to. What is that? We follow Kitab and Sunnah. That's what we follow in Islam. So our ideas towards marriage, our ideas toward divorce, whether it's right-hand possession, of course. What did brother say? He says, yeah, if you tell niggas that, niggas be going out making, yeah, that is true. Because we niggas. So it's always a danger when you talk about things in the Sharia that's allowable, that some nigga gonna come and because that's what we do. We will do that. That's why we need to have imams in communities to have order.
But Imam, let me ask you a question because I'm relating to this.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, and I think it goes back to knowledge, right?
Yeah, of course.
When you speak of these things, right, you have to define.
Yeah, you do.
What you're talking about.
That's true.
Because if terms are not defined, someone will think you're saying one thing when you're trying to say something else. And especially with you, the way you express yourself sometimes, they really may misunderstand. So I think it is essential, and not at this moment, but it's essential that when we make certain statements, we define Islamically what is understood. Because we're talking about a lot of people that just don't understand the Sharia. They don't understand all of these things. So I'm just saying we can't do it right now, but in the future, come back to that and expound so that people would understand what you're saying.
But you're so right, and that's why it's so good that we have these conversations, man, because, a lot of times I make the false assumption, the wrong assumption that people know what I'm talking about, and they don't. I'm nobody. I'm just saying. A lot of times I mention this terminology. I mention at-tasarrua. I mentioned at-tasarrua in an article, and a brother said, "Astaghfirullah, brother. You mean the prophet?" But the prophet did practice that. He practiced with one of his wives. So, but I'm just saying. So a lot of times it's my fault, man. That I make the assumption wrongfully so that people know what I'm talking about sometimes, and that's just bad on my part because that's just my shortcoming. Because a lot of times I assume a Muslim, if he run in his mouth, I still got that feeling. If you're a Muslim and you run in your mouth, you must already know something. You must know what you're talking about because you're challenging me. You're calling me names. You're calling this man name. You're talking crap. You must already know. You must know a sorta. But and then I'm trying to understand the age we live in is you will have a Muslim who knows nothing. He doesn't know the conditions of prayer. He may not even know how to do ghusl. But he's on the internet. He's on Facebook. Man, the imam this, imam this, imam that. I'm gonna check the imam. And that's just the sign of the times we live in. So I make the false assumption sometimes that before you start challenging this, and he's talking this, and brother, ain't no slavery, ain't no right hand possession. You need to really come with some sharia, man, because there are us who we studied the law. We studied the law. Some of us have degrees in usul al-din and law and sharia studies. It is a science. So I just have an issue when people come in the door and don't know what they're talking about and got a lot of mouth. And so
I think that's why we got to sometimes stay focused. The peanut gallery, let them do what they do. And if they get too distracted, we'll just remove them. I don't like the idea of blocking people. I would like to just teach them over time to have manners and be patient and follow, because people benefit. And, this is the nature.
I like
But
blocking people.
alhamdulillah, we'll talk about that, but we let's try to stay focused. We're trying to fix marriages and how to have good spouses, and slavery.
But that being said, I do agree with the board. I do agree with having that kind of board.
Okay, good.
We should, but people should pay money. People should pay.
Okay, all right. Naeem, go ahead. If you ain't forget what we were talking about.
I stepped away for a minute. What are we talking about?
Dad, they almost made me forget now, right? Imam, look now before you went off. I forgot now. You guys, man.
Your wife reminded me in the comments about a council
so what I was
of a
talking
group
about
of imams.
was since we put three things: taqwa, reputation, community, family. Okay, now that we're going to get into that, and you talked about masjid hoppers and people going and all, establishing like a group of imams, a council that facilitates in an advisory capacity men and women who want to get married. What do you think about such an idea?
I think it's a good idea, and it helps communities keep up with the times, because a lot of people don't physically live near a community. Of course, we say that they should, get to one, but the reality is right now, a lot of people aren't physically connected with a community. And so I think something like this will help facilitate that. It'll move them in that direction, because in the meantime, we still have to facilitate marriages and all that kind of stuff. It's similar to like what Malcolm said when he was talking about fighting for good education and housing and stuff like that. He said in one speech, I believe that we should all get up and go back to Africa. But while we here, we got to eat now, we got to sleep now, we got to get some education, we got to get some money now, right? So things aren't in there, they aren't ideal, but in the meantime, people still need to get married, and it still needs to be right, and stuff still needs to happen in a proper way. So I think that would be good in facilitating that.
Imam.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea, especially when we get people who are coming from different communities. We should have a forum where we drill them. We drill the brothers and sisters, make sure they know all of their obligations, rights, and duties. I mean, for instance, if we got people in our own community that's in house, we can handle those. But a lot of people are, on marriage sites today, meeting each other on social media. If people who follow us, they should, if they're looking to get married, sisters, you should tell the brother, listen, before we get married, you have to have a panel discussion with these four imams. We'll appoint a time, we meet with them, we check them out, we investigate them, and we give our feedback. And then we go from there. And likewise from sisters, because like if it's in house, I mean it's cool, but sometimes you might get somebody from my community and someone else from another community we don't know anything about, and yeah, I think people who trust us as imams, I'm willing to do it.
Okay, so would that mean that all three of y'all willing to sign up for something like that, and we can start it, and we can add other imams so we don't get overwhelmed? What's your thoughts about that? You could just take your mics off. Yes, no, maybe so. Go fly a kite, Imam.
Yeah, that's cool.
Listen, though, I talked about this. Listen, I think it's a good idea. And somebody said something, and we've talked about that before. I think you need to have imam councils, and we need to have our own sharia boards. We need to have our own judiciary where we can settle disputes. I mean, not talking about capital punishment, but I'm saying all this has to do with Islamic governance. All this has to do with governance. It's a simple governance of Islam. That's because when you have people in charge of the Islamic affairs, right? Ulat al-Amr, which we put ourselves in a position. We are Ulat al-Amr to different degrees. Those who are in charge of the affairs. And that's our responsibility when we can to come together so that affairs are adjudicated. Because eventually what you will have, it didn't happen overnight, eventually you'll have the joker people, they'll be kind of left out. Because you're going to have people who, man, they are ungovernable, man. They're just going to have their own thing, the own idea. People will open up the book, Quran, read their own understanding of Islam based upon nothing, based upon just nothing, their understanding of the English text or something. You're going to have those kind of people until you can bring those along. You want to get the people who are really trying to live according to the religion of God, living according to the law of God. And there's a way to do that in America, and having imam boards or councils, maybe not one, but just councils of imam and women in a community where people can go to. You want to get married? Okay. So we standardize it. So if somebody gets married, this masjid, this masjid, this masjid, this masjid, it's the same way. It's the same procedure. It's the same law. Other communities do that, by the way. There's other communities of the immigrant community. They have 30 and 40 different massages all on the same thing. You got the Somali brothers out here, they got 20 different massages around the country. They all got the same thing. They got all kind of councils. The Pakistanis have that. They got councils. India have that. Indian Muslims, they got councils in California, 19 different massages. The same thing, same program. They got their own councils, own procedure. Black American Muslims, we're just in a stage right now. We are in a mob stage. And so as much as we can come out of that mob stage, if it's having imam councils, that's the beginning. Imam councils. And then so eventually people who are in the mob stage, I ain't with nobody, I don't follow nothing, I'm my own imam. Eventually those people some will fall to the wayside, but some will say, oh, okay, let me get involved and become part of something. Because that's why we're being decimated. So yeah, I'm for that.
All right. So what I would suggest an outcome, because we're going to have to continue, we'll have part 2 next week, inshallah, if y'all all agree, because we got to still unpack all this stuff. But this week, I would like us to get together and start to put that, because I'm quite sure y'all do. I get a lot of women from all over the country, especially because of this. They send messages to me about no one to help them with marriage. So I think a solution would be that in an advisory capacity, when you got more than one imam, right? That way, one imam is not bombarded with all the problems, right? We could come together, listen, okay, you're going to meet with a counseling with Imam Luqman or Imam Naeem, and then we're going to come back, or Imam Faheem, and we're going to come back and we're going to discuss this. And this way, at least we've helped to bring people who don't have community into some kind of leadership format, slowly but surely, right? The woman, if she has a disastrous marriage after such thing has been established, and she knows about it, then that's her fault, because I think she should have said, listen, if you're going to marry me, You're going to go meet with these imams, and we're going to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, right? And the man should want that. One of the brothers said, I might not want all of those imams in my business. And my thing is, maybe you don't. Then maybe the women who want you to go to those imams shouldn't marry you, right? And that's fine. Go find someone who is not interested in that. And you have that right. And no one should censor you for that right. But for those who would like that facilitation and assistance in their marriage process, I think we should provide it if we can, right? And I want to take some questions quickly. If we can take 15 minutes to take some questions related from the people, because we've been talking. But I just want to close with those 3 points that we mentioned of a taqwa, reputation, and community. And maybe some of people, because they're all around the country, their community would be an online community, unfortunately. Until we find suitable masajid throughout the country, that we have a larger group of imams that work together. And that's going to be more challenging to get than what we have right now. Because you have other imams who got their own group, right? So, for instance, you have communities, they have a group of imams, right? And we're not included in that. So you got that option, right? Find some leadership that's suitable for you, some community that's suitable for you, and join and support it and be a part of it and hold yourself accountable. But I think we all agree, no masjid jumping, no leadership jumping. We should have some kind of structure. Go ahead, Imam Luqman.
No, I'm just saying, I'm looking at some of the questions, and people have really good questions. The questions, some of them may seem a little insolent, but they're really serious questions, and I really like to see.
All right, so take one and take one. Each one take one, so all of us look through the questions and try to answer it within 2 minutes. Go ahead, Imam Luqman.
Okay, wait a minute. I just saw one of the sister, and I thought it was a serious.
Or if one of the other imams got a question real quick, answer, go ahead and take it.
Yeah, I scrolled down, but just a question that one sister said she don't really like anybody question about what she knows because she's still learning, and that made me think like that's really like a legitimate question, because a lot of people are still learning the religion. That's the thing. They're still learning. Some people are just learning. Some people just realize that they're supposed to learn. And so that is why, and this is my answer to that question, because when I see people's questions, that's why I stay on these Facebook stuff, because I like to hear what people got to say. And that's why I tweet, I pick little intellectual fights. But here's the thing, brothers and sisters, and especially for the sisters, okay? It's known a lot of people do not know the religion. That's okay. Everybody has to learn from somewhere. So this is why we emphasize, and all of the imams here emphasize, the importance of congregation, the importance of having an imam, right? So if there is an imam, it don't have to be any one of us. If there is any imam from any background you can think of, any country, anywhere, and you like that imam, and you think he's teaching the right thing, then you go and say, listen, brother, I want to be a part of your community. Can you be my imam? Will you be my imam? Or can I be? And support that and stick with that. Stick with that. You're not going to find the perfect imam. And for a lot of people, they're going to disagree with the imams anyway because they don't know this. They don't know the religion. If you don't know the religion, of course you're going to disagree with the imam. If he's using religion, if he's using sources, if you're using Quran and Sunnah and Sharia law and legal precedent and fiqh, and you have no idea, of course you're gonna like, what is that? I don't want that. Okay, but you have to understand we're living in the last days. So all this chaos, yes, this has all been prophesied to be chaotic, just like it is right now. So in the hadith of Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman, Everybody know that hadith, the Imams know. It starts off with Kana Nasu, yes, Aluna Rasulullahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, an al khayri kuntu as'aluhu an shar, makafatan al aqa'afi. Yes, in Sahih Bukhari. The people used to ask the Prophet about the good things. I used to ask him about the bad things so I won't fall into it. And this is a long hadith, but at the end it goes to the last day's condition that we're living in right now. Not to say Yom Kippur is tomorrow, next week, who Allah only knows. But we are living in the last days. Whether we are living in the time of the Dajjal proceeding, maybe even be here, this is all real. And all this stuff that's happening, like it's there. That's it. So my thing is go from that perspective. Okay, we could argue about stuff till we blue in the face. But if you don't really have if you don't have the knowledge to argue, then get with someone who has knowledge. Get with a halfway decent leader. Because you don't have time to figure it all out. Somebody who's been studying 30, 40 years with the school, graduated from the Islamic University, all that kind of stuff. You don't have time to catch up with that person. 2 days in no weekend course. That's crazy. That's crazy. And for a lot of imams, we're just kind of being, we're trying to be imams, trying to be good people, good citizens and stuff for, to help people because this is our job because we're black. We're black Muslims. You are people. Simple as that. We don't have a choice. We don't have a choice to go and be over here with that. We got to be right down here with the people till the end. That's a commitment that I know these brothers right here, we've all made before we even got to this forum. So, but the sister said that is really reminding me. People don't know, and that's understanding. It's understandable. But if you want to move ahead in your religion, you really need to have an imam, somebody you trust. Not anybody. Maybe I'm a certain way. I'm not fit to be people's imam. I'm smart because I don't really.
Hey, Imam, let's try to close it
But
up.
that's it. No. I think I answered the sister's question. I want to whoever said that question. I understand where you're coming from, sister. And I get your question.
Imam Faheem.
You want me to answer one of the questions?
Did you find one?
Yeah, that was a question the sister posed about having a meet and greet at our masjids instead of online or something like that. Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. I mean, I thought it would go without saying that the service that we just suggested here about counseling is for people who are not attached to a community already or maybe displaced or don't have any kind of connection, So, I mean, this is just not something we just making up this council and everybody got to go through us like it's for people, I mean, like Imam Amin said, I get all types of inboxes, people from across the country, asking me about people in other states, people I never met or seen, and some people, they only use this platform, and unfortunately, a lot of people are, disconnected and displaced from their communities and they had the most to say. So we need some kind of transparency, some type of standard, you know what I mean? So that would be for those kind of people. But everybody here should be working to get themselves connected to a community. And if you feel like you can't talk to them, then be what you want to see, and this is a big problem that I have. People, they want the community to be ideal, like this utopian kind of thing. No, but, be the part that you want to see. You be connected, you be committed, you attend, you give ideas, you know what I mean? Good, bad, or indifferent. Just be a part of it. That's what makes a community, All types of elements go into it, and it's not perfect, but it's functioning. You know what I mean? That's what we need to do, and don't withdraw because it's not in your favor at the moment. We got to stop doing that. Just stick with the community, give your support, give your money, give your time, give your effort, give your energy, give your ideas, and it'll grow. But if everybody's hopping around and you're looking for what suits your desires, then those things, and then we got to end up trying to clean that stuff up anyway. And it's nerve-wracking, man. So this for the people who feel like they're not connected, because once we talk to them, we're going to find out why. What's going on in your locale? Hold on, I know a brother in Texas, I know a brother in wherever, you know what I mean? let me find out, and then because there has to be some kind of transparency online, But as far as that about meet and greeting in the masjid, I'm for it. I'm for it, inshallah.
Imam Naeem, did you find a question you want to take on?
Alhamdulillah, I found a couple. One of them was too big for me to tackle. It was one near the end of the thread, but I found another one. It says, can couples who have recently gotten married seek counsel to see they are suitable for one another? I mean, that's kind of like the car before the horse. You're already married, but I'm not sure if this question was specific to what was proposed here with regards to, a group of imams and, counseling as in an advisory situation. I'm not sure if that question is specific to that or just in general. To answer your question, yes, you can always seek counsel. But again, I don't know if that question was specific to what we were proposing here. So. Which one of the subhanAllah do you want to answer?
We can't hear you, Imam.
Imam, we can't hear you.
I said, that's what I'm talking about. Subhanallah, was that necessary? Like, come on.
It's like at least 20 of them so far.
Yeah, come on. All right, well, we won't got to worry about him no more. Assalamu alaikum. With subhanallah, learn this other word, ma'as-salama. But here's what I wanted to address. I done missed everything because it is subhanallah.
Okay, let me say something.
Luqman, here, of closing, we got to close out. What I wanted to say, it wasn't directly to answers, is to a question was that many people, they want to discuss what they want to discuss. And that's just not possible in 2 hours that we try to allot. We can't address every single concern. That's why we narrow it. We try to focus on some things and then build upon that, unpack that. I say something in my morning classes, my post-Fajr reflections, that we can't have microwave Islam. Stuff just don't happen overnight. It takes a process. It takes time. We've never been doing this at this consistency with these group of imams ever. So it's a new process where we're discussing things and we're learning to, get to know one another. It takes time. And I just ask everyone to give us time. Right? To be patient as we take the time to unpack all this stuff, right? And inshallah, we intend to stay. We've been consistent for quite a while. We don't intend to go nowhere. We're actually trying to help. Be patient. Take the time it needs to take. Lastly, I wanted to say this, that if anyone wants our help, all of these imams are willing to help you. If anyone who's not interested in what we're doing, save the others the waste of time when you know you're not interested, just interjecting just for kicks and grins. We're trying to do something serious. All of us are imams over real live communities with real people, men, women, children, right? We got real things to do. None of us, as Imam Naeem's wife so quickly and graciously remind him, do you have time for that? Did you catch that? No one, we don't have a lot of time. So the time we're taking to do this, none of us is getting paid. None of us is on some salary to do this. Even the money we request of you to help, we don't get it. So we still continue. That means we want to help. Help us help you, right? Help us help you. And that was my last thing. And I'll let Imam, because all of us, we could do something else with our time. Trust me, I get mail from letters from my own community members. You taking all that time on online, we need you here. From my own community. They like, you spending time with them, we need you here. So respect that from everybody who gives their time to help you. Show them a little respect. You know what I'm saying? Like, and if you just on clown time, go be a clown somewhere else. Ain't nobody interested. I don't think no one comes here to clown. You know what I'm saying? Barakallahu bikum. Go ahead, Imam Luqman, we're going to leave it to you to close us out and say your last piece. Please make it within 3 minutes so we can get out of here.
Because this is just regular naqash. This is this Islamic process. Islamic process comes in many shapes and forms, but it's way better than sitting on the side doing nothing, talking, just talking. But I think what you said is important. It's like basically, listen. You can't dictate what the imam's going to do for you. You can't tell people what the way you want to teach it. Teach me this, teach me. I don't want. You can't do that. That's just we're spoiled. We're spoiled. We're very selfish, and we have been really, we've had a lot of really bad influences on our Islamic identity. I mean, to the point that even basic things people don't even know. I mean, we have basic assumptions. Like I said, I didn't get finished explaining about the getting married, so you just second be halal. Like somehow that's really gotten. I mean, it's like you're criticizing halal sex. You got to understand. There is halal and there's haram. There's laws, and the laws are made for people. Certain things, Allah made this law like that because He knows the type of people that we are. So He made the laws so that we can live under His grace, under His law, despite our desires, despite our differences, despite our our issues. That's just the way it is. But anyway, I'm glad that we have this forum, and sometimes it's good to have the imams together because sometimes we can help explain things to people. Because listen, I'm not going to explain everything to everybody. Seriously. If you want to argue with me and you don't really know what you're talking about, I'm going to dish you. That's what I'm going to do. I ain't got time. I don't have time for you to come in, be arrogant. That's not being arrogant. But you come in and you're being ignorant. You want to be disrespectful. You don't even know the first thing about what you're talking about. I don't have toleration for that. So that's why it's good to have other imams, because another imam may tolerate that. I don't, man. If you want to be a student, sit down and be quiet so you learn. Because people like to come and get on people's Facebook or whatever platform it is, and you want to start teaching the religion. If you want to start teaching the religion, know what you are talking about or shut up. Because we have enough problem with the ignorance. And some people just get in the way. And my experience as an imam, you can't please everybody. And sometimes people do need their ass whooped. That's just what they need. We're on the internet right now. No, seriously. Right, we're on the internet.
Let's close it up.
Okay, let me say one thing. If it wasn't for the internet and people hiding behind the internet, a lot of stuff wouldn't be going on. And people would have to, pay for their wolf tickets, man. And that's one of the problems. We're online, so we have to compensate for that. We're online. People can come in, you don't know their name, they have no face. Oh, boo, 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 boo. And that's a problem. So I'm glad that we have in the forum, man. So I'm done. I just wanted to say I'm glad to have the forum. so we can discuss things. And listen, man, I'm too old to be mentioning my words, bro. I have to meet a little. I don't know when. I'm too old, man, for that. But But anyway, I'm glad other imams, because I may say something, and Imam Amin will come and he'll put it in a better, especially Imam Naeem. He'll say the same thing I'm saying. He'll put it so diplomatically, like, wow. I'd be like, damn, I wish I would say it. But that's him. He has a way about himself. I ain't trying to make your head big, bro. I'm just saying.
Imam,
I respect the.
Hey, Imam, the people love your spirit. The dalil, the people love your spirit. The dalil that they love your spirit is that there's over 100 people listening to you for 2 hours. So they must like what you're saying, right? So that's sufficient. They keep coming, they're listening, and they're...
I can't even hear it.
Oh, you can't hear? Man, I'm pouring my heart out to you. Like that stuff. All right, hey,
I hear you,
right,
man.
Now we gotta do something. Next,
I can't hear
I'm gonna change the screen real quick. Thursday night, I gotta do one for the sponsors. We have an all women's.
We got a sponsor.
No. I don't know. I didn't mean that. There's going to be a discussion by the Knight family on Black women in marriage. And reason why, because I know it's already coming, I wanted them to go first because two of them are students of knowledge. And I wanted to hear from someone who I know, right, that studied the sacred law. And I want to hear their opinion. And then I want to come also with sisters that get a chance to listen what they say, as brothers hear what we say, and then they would respond from their view. So I'm going to have multiple sessions on this from women, different women. And already someone suggested the wives of the imams, so we're going to let the wives of the imams, which inshallah, Imam Naeem, you already gave me permission, right? That will be led by Sister Samira. Where she's at? Is she's gone?
Nah, she's here.
And she will be, inshallah, leading that next week with her selected guests, because I didn't have anything with picking that panel. I let them do it. So it'll be a, that round table. So you up after this, so I want you to tune in and fire away at that round table that they're having. And it's not really an imam's round table, it's a panel discussion. I know all of them, that whole family is Muslim, and I knew them for years. I think it's going to be a good discussion, but take notes, and then from the imam's wives, and they're going to come in and address from their aspect, inshallah. So, boy, I don't know if they set me up, but I'm going to go ahead and go for it. I'm going to jump in and protect my head. Stop. All right. Barakallahu fikum wa jazakumullahu khaira. Inshallah, we thank you all. Imam Naeem, if you can close us out with dua, that would be great, inshallah.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الفاتحة. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thank you all for your participation.